Commander Lisa Kane looked at the big screen showing the strange alien ship floating in empty space between stars. The ship was huge and dark, made of metal that seemed to bend light around it. Her exploration ship called Meridian had found this mysterious vessel 3 days ago. The alien ship was over 1 kilometer long with impossible angles and curves that hurt the eyes to look at directly. Chief Science Officer Maya Torres ran her hands over the control panel as data flowed across multiple screens. Maya spoke with excitement barely contained in her voice. The ship has been drifting here for hundreds of years, but the power core is still working. Whatever race built this technology was far beyond anything humans have ever created. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine as she studied the readings. The ship appeared dead from the outside, but deep scans showed it was very much alive with energy flowing through systems they could not understand. The away team prepared for boarding. Lisa selected her best people, including Maya Torres and Security Chief Captain Amy Sullivan. The airlock sealed, and their small shuttle moved toward the alien vessel. Inside the alien ship, they found wonders and horrors. The corridors were built for beings much taller than humans, with ceiling heights that made them feel like children. The walls had a strange texture that seemed to shift and move when not looked at directly. Maya worked frantically at what appeared to be a control terminal. The alien writing was unlike anything in human databases, but the universal translator slowly began making sense of the symbols. "Lisa, this is incredible," Maya called out. "The data banks are intact and fully functional. This ship contains star charts, showing a massive galactic empire called the Zephyrian Dominion. They control over 10,000 worlds across the galaxy." Amy Sullivan kept watch while the scientists worked, but she could feel something was wrong about this place. The ship felt like a tomb, but also like it was watching them, waiting for something. The deeper they went into the ship, the more disturbing the discoveries became. The Zephyrians had detailed records of how they conquered species after species. Some races were enslaved, while others were completely eliminated from existence. Maya found invasion plans that made her blood freeze. The Zephyrians studied each species for years before attacking. They learned weaknesses and used them to crush all resistance. The plans were methodical and brutal, showing no mercy for anyone who opposed them. But the most terrifying discovery was yet to come. Lisa found herself in what appeared to be the command center, where holographic displays still showed the last moments of this ship's journey. The final log entry played automatically as they entered. A tall alien figure appeared, speaking in their strange language, but the translator worked perfectly. The being spoke with fear in its voice. "The Dominion sleeps now, but it will wake. When it does, it will remember its hunger for conquest. We tried to warn the outer worlds, but it was too late. The great ships are coming and nothing can stop them." Lisa felt her heart stop as she saw the star charts. The coordinates for Sol system were clearly marked in their invasion database with a scheduled conquest date that was only 2 years away. Maya discovered more files that painted a picture of unstoppable alien technology ships that could destroy planets, weapons that could kill millions with a single shot, an empire that had crushed every civilization it encountered for thousands of years. Amy found the ship's armory filled with weapons beyond human understanding, energy rifles that could cut through solid metal, like paper armor that could stop any human weapon, personal shields that made the wearer nearly invulnerable. The team spent hours downloading everything they could fit into their portable storage devices. Every piece of information could be vital for humanity's survival. They found technical manuals for alien technology, star maps showing safe routes through space, and most importantly, detailed information about Zephyrian military tactics. As they prepared to leave the alien ship, Lisa took one last look around the command center. This vessel had been a warning sent by some brave soul who tried to alert others about the coming invasion. Now it was humanity's only advantage in the war that was coming. The shuttle returned to Meridian. With its precious cargo of alien knowledge, Lisa immediately ordered emergency transmission to Earth Command. The message was simple and terrifying. An alien empire was coming to conquer or destroy humanity, and they had less than 2 years to prepare. Maya continued studying the alien data during the journey back to Earth. What she found in the deeper files made the situation even more complex. The Zephyrian Empire was not as strong as it appeared to be. There were signs of internal conflict rebellions. On dozens of worlds and resources stretched thin across their vast territory. Amy Sullivan reviewed the military data and began forming plans. The aliens were powerful, but they were not invincible. They had weaknesses that could be exploited if humanity was smart enough and brave enough to use them. Lisa knew that everything had changed. The discovery of this alien ship would either save humanity or confirm their doom. The next 2 years would determine whether humans would remain free or become just another conquered species in the Zephyrian Empire. The journey back to Earth felt like the longest trip of their lives. Each day brought them closer to a world that did not yet know its fate was already decided by beings from across the galaxy. The only question now was whether humanity would fight or surrender when the aliens finally arrived. 2 years had passed since the discovery of the alien derelict ship Earth had prepared as best it could, but everyone knew it would not be enough. Dr. Amanda Price watched her screens from Luna Station as space itself seemed to bend and twist at the edge of the solar system. Massive shapes began dropping out of hyperspace one by one. Each alien ship was larger than anything humanity had ever built. The smallest vessels were twice the size of Earth's biggest battleships, while the largest looked like floating cities made of dark metal and energy. Amanda counted over 300 alien ships as they formed into perfect battle formations. The Zephyrian Dominion had arrived exactly as their ancient records predicted, but they had come early, and in far greater numbers than expected. Admiral Kate Morrison received the first communication at Earth Command headquarters. The alien voice came through every human frequency, at the same time speaking in perfect English, with a tone that was cultured and completely without emotion. The voice belonged to someone who had done this many times before. Primitive species of the third planet. You exist only because we allow it. You will submit to Dominion rule within 24 hours or face complete extinction. This is not a discussion or negotiation. Kate felt anger rise in her chest as she listened to the aliens' casual dismissal of humanity. The voice continued explaining how Earth would be divided among Zephyrian colonists while humans would serve as workers in mines and factories. Those who resisted would be eliminated without mercy. Meanwhile, Captain Amy Sullivan commanded the experimental stealth ship, Shadow Dancer, hidden behind one of Jupiter's moons. She had spent 2 years studying alien technology, and now her ship was equipped with systems reverse-engineered from the derelict vessel. Amy had been monitoring Zephyrian communications since their arrival. What she discovered made her heart race with excitement. The aliens were not nearly as powerful as they wanted everyone to believe. Their empire was falling apart from the inside. Rebellions had broken out on dozens of worlds, stretching their military forces to the breaking point. Many of their ships were undermanned and running on backup power systems. The invasion of Earth was not about conquest anymore. It was about desperation. The Zephyrians needed Earth resources desperately, but more than that, they needed a quick victory to show their remaining subjects that the Dominion was still strong. Any sign of weakness could trigger more rebellions and complete collapse of their empire. Amy smiled as she prepared her report to Earth Command. The aliens wanted war, but they were about to get something. They never expected humanity fighting back with knowledge of their weaknesses. Dr. Lisa Kane, now serving as Earth's chief alien specialist, had discovered even more disturbing information in the derelict ships' databases. The Zephyrian homeworlds were dying, consumed by some kind of ancient weapon they had unleashed centuries ago in their arrogance. The weapon was described as self-replicating nanomachines, originally designed to transform planets into perfect worlds for Zephyrian colonists. But something had gone wrong, and the machines had turned against their creators, slowly consuming everything in their path. Maya Torres led the team of scientists working around the clock to understand alien technology. Every breakthrough could mean the difference between slavery and freedom for the human race. They had managed to build better shields and more powerful weapons, but it still was not enough. The first battle came sooner than expected. A group of Zephyrian scouts approached Mars and were met by a human patrol fleet. The alien ships destroyed 3 human vessels without taking any damage themselves. The message was clear. Resistance was futile, but Captain Sullivan had other plans. She had been studying the alien fleet movements and identified their flagship, a massive vessel that served as command center for the entire invasion force. If that ship could be captured or destroyed, the rest of the fleet would be thrown into chaos. Amanda Price detected strange energy readings from the alien fleet. Something was wrong with their formations. Several ships appeared to be having power problems while others seemed to be arguing among themselves, using rapid bursts of communication. The human fleet continued to grow as ships arrived from colonies throughout the solar system. But even with every vessel humanity could field, they were still outnumbered 10-1. The aliens had weapons that could destroy planets while humans struggled to damage even their smallest ships. Admiral Morrison made the difficult decision to evacuate Earth major cities. Billions of people began moving to underground shelters and space stations, while the military prepared for a battle they could not win through conventional means. Amy Sullivan received permission for her desperate plan. She would take Shadow Dancer deep into the alien fleet and attempt to board their flagship. Using stealth technology and knowledge of Zephyrian weaknesses, she hoped to strike at the heart of their invasion force. The plan was incredibly dangerous with almost no chance of success. But Amy knew that desperate times called for desperate measures. If humanity was going to survive, they needed to do something the aliens would never expect. Lisa Kane made one final discovery in the alien databases. The Zephyrians had a fatal weakness in their psychology. They had conquered so many worlds and destroyed so many civilizations that they could not imagine anyone fighting back successfully. This arrogance had cost them before. When species did resist effectively, the Zephyrians often panicked and made terrible mistakes. The key was to hit them hard and fast before they could recover from the shock as the alien fleet moved closer to Earth. Amy Sullivan prepared to launch the most important mission in human history. The fate of billions rested on her ability to infiltrate an alien ship and turn their own weapons against them. The next few days would determine whether humanity would join the long list of species conquered by the Zephyrian Dominion or become the first to fight back and win. The war for Earth was about to begin, and everyone knew that only one species would survive. Captain Amy Sullivan guided Shadow Dancer through the asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter, using every piece of stealth technology humanity had developed. The alien fleet was massive, and their sensors were powerful, but they were not looking for something as small and quiet as her ship. Her team consisted of combat engineer Chloe Martinez and linguist Dr. Beth Rivers. Both women had volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. The plan was simple in concept, but nearly impossible. In execution, they would board the Zephyrian flagship and somehow turn it against the rest of the fleet. Amy had studied the alien ship movements for weeks and identified a pattern. The flagship moved to the rear of the formation during shift changes, when crew rotations created brief gaps in their security. The window would only last 15 minutes. Shadow Dancer approached the massive alien vessel from below, using the ship's own energy signature to mask their presence. The flagship was over, 2 kilometers long and bristling with weapon systems that could destroy entire cities. Each gun turret was larger than most human ships. Chloe worked frantically on the cutting equipment they would need to breach the alien hull. Her tools had been modified with technology from the derelict ship, but nobody knew if they would work on active Zephyrian armor. The metal was unlike anything in human experience. Beth reviewed the linguistic data they had gathered from intercepted communications. The Zephyrian language was complex with different forms used for different social ranks. Making a mistake could expose them immediately as intruders. The boarding took place during the third shift change. Amy had observed Shadow Dancer attached to the flagship hull like a parasite while Chloe cut through layers of alien metal that seemed to repair themselves, even as she worked on them. Inside the ship, they found corridors built for beings much taller than humans. The ceiling was 5 meters high and covered with symbols that glowed softly in the dim lighting. Everything was clean and perfectly organized, showing the rigid military discipline of the Zephyrian culture. They moved carefully through the ship using hand signals and avoiding the main corridors. Amy had memorized the layout from the derelict vessel, but this ship was much larger and more complex. The crew quarters alone could hold thousands of beings. What they discovered shocked them. The ship was designed for a crew of over 10,000. but Amy counted less than 800 beings actually aboard. Most sections were empty with only automated systems keeping them running. The Zephyrian Empire was clearly struggling to maintain their fleet. Beth found a computer terminal and began accessing the ship database. What she discovered was both terrifying and encouraging. The flagship was not just a military vessel, it was also carrying refugees. The Zephyrian homeworlds were indeed dying, and this fleet represented the last survivors of their civilization. Chloe located the main engineering section and began studying the power systems. The aliens used technology based on controlled antimatter reactions that could power entire cities. The weapon systems alone drew more energy than most human colonies used in a year. Amy realized this was not just an invasion, it was an evacuation. The Zephyrians needed Earth not just for its resources, but as a new home. Their own worlds were being consumed by the nanomachine, plague they had created centuries ago. The team reached the command center after hours of careful movement through the ship's corridors. The bridge was a vast chamber filled with holographic displays showing the positions of every ship in both fleets. Dozens of Zephyrian officers worked at control stations monitoring the invasion. Amy watched as the alien commander received reports from across the fleet. Several ships were having mechanical problems, while others reported crew shortages. The mighty Zephyrian Dominion was held together by determination and desperation, rather than actual strength. Chloe found the ship's computer core and began downloading everything she could access. The data included military codes, fleet positions, and most importantly, detailed information about the condition of the Zephyrian Empire. The rebellion reports were even worse than they had suspected. Entire sectors had declared independence from the Dominion, while others had simply stopped responding to commands. The empire that had once controlled 10,000 worlds now struggled to maintain control over a few hundred. The Earth invasion was their last desperate attempt to regain power. Beth discovered something that made her gasp with surprise. The Zephyrian language had built-in concepts for surrender and negotiation that their leaders never used. The common soldiers were tired of war and wanted peace, but their commanders would rather die than admit defeat. Alarms began blaring throughout the ship. As security systems detected the human intruders, Amy knew they had only minutes before alien soldiers would surround them. She made a decision that would change everything. Instead of trying to sabotage the ship, she would steal it. Chloe worked frantically to access the ship control systems while Beth used her linguistic skills to override security protocols. The Zephyrian computer systems were advanced, but they were not prepared for humans who understood their weaknesses. Amy took position at what appeared to be the main command station. The controls were designed for taller beings with different hand structures, but she managed to activate the ship's movement systems. The massive vessel shuddered as engines that had been dormant came to life. The alien crew realized what was happening and began rushing toward the command center, but it was too late. Amy had locked down all the blast doors and activated the ship's internal defense systems. The humans now controlled the most powerful vessel in the Zephyrian fleet. The flagship turned its weapons on its own fleet and fired. Massive energy beams struck 3 escort vessels, crippling their engines and weapon systems. The other Zephyrian ships scattered in confusion, unable to believe what they were seeing. Amy activated the ship's communication array and sent a message that would shake the foundations of the Zephyrian Empire. She broadcast on all frequencies, using their own equipment to reach every corner of their territory. The message was simple but devastating. The great Zephyrian Dominion was dying. Their leaders had lied about their strength. The invasion of Earth was not a glorious conquest, but a desperate attempt by refugees to find a new home. The empire that had terrified the galaxy for thousands of years was crumbling from within. The effect was immediate rebellions that had been hidden erupted into open warfare, while loyalist forces found themselves cut off from support. The psychological impact of seeing their own flagship stolen by primitive humans was more damaging than losing a dozen battles. Amy piloted the massive vessel away from Earth, using the ship's hyperspace drive to jump to a safe location. The human team now controlled the most advanced ship in the galaxy, along with all the secrets of Zephyrian technology. The war had taken an unexpected turn. The aliens had come to conquer Earth, but instead found themselves facing an enemy who fought with intelligence rather than just weapons humanity, had struck at the heart of the Zephyrian Empire, and the results would echo across the galaxy. Admiral Kate Morrison watched her tactical display in amazement as the massive Zephyrian flagship opened fire on its own fleet. The impossible had happened. Amy Sullivan had not only infiltrated the alien command ship, but had somehow taken control of it. The stolen flagship jumped to hyperspace after crippling 3 escort vessels, leaving the remaining Zephyrian fleet in complete chaos. Their formations scattered as ship commanders tried to understand what had just occurred. The psychological impact was devastating. Amy Sullivan found herself in command of the most advanced vessel in the known galaxy. The ship she had renamed New Dawn contained technology that was centuries beyond human understanding, but more importantly, it held the complete database of the Zephyrian Empire. Working with Chloe Martinez and Beth Rivers, Amy began accessing information that revealed the true scope of the alien civilization. What they discovered painted a picture of an empire in its final death. Though struggling to survive against impossible odds, the Zephyrian homeworlds were indeed being consumed by their own creation. The nanomachine plague had spread across 17 core planets, turning thriving civilizations into barren wastelands. The machines consumed everything organic, leaving behind only empty cities and dead Earth. Beth found records showing that the plague had been unleashed during a civil war 800 years ago. A faction of Zephyrian scientists had believed they could create the perfect weapon to end all conflicts. Instead, they had doomed their own civilization. The nanomachines were programmed to terraform planets by breaking down existing organic matter and rebuilding it, according to Zephyrian specifications. But a programming error had caused them to view all organic life as a threat to be eliminated. Including their creators, Dr. Lisa Kane received the transmitted data from New Dawn and immediately began working with Maya Torres to analyze the alien plague. The nanomachines were incredibly sophisticated, using self-replication and adaptation to overcome any countermeasures the Zephyrians had developed. Maya discovered that the machines had one critical weakness. They were designed to work within Zephyrian biological parameters and had difficulty adapting to completely different forms of life. Human medical nanobots operated on entirely different principles that might be able to counter the alien plague. Meanwhile, the political situation in the Zephyrian Empire continued to deteriorate. Amy's broadcast had triggered massive uprisings across hundreds of worlds as subject species realized their oppressors were not invincible. The Empire was collapsing faster than anyone had predicted. Admiral Morrison found herself in an unprecedented situation. The Zephyrian fleet at Earth was cut off from their home territory, with no way to receive reinforcements or supplies. Many of their ships were running on emergency power while others reported critical system failures. Dr. Amanda Price detected energy signatures indicating that several alien vessels were attempting to surrender. Their crews were tired of war and wanted to return to their dying homeworlds. Some captains were even requesting asylum on human colonies. The human fleet gradually surrounded the remaining Zephyrian ships but made no aggressive moves. Instead, Admiral Morrison broadcast an offer of negotiation. The aliens could continue fighting a war they could not win, or they could work together to find a solution. Supreme Commander Jekvor, the leader of the Zephyrian invasion force, found himself in an impossible position. His empire was crumbling, his fleet was scattered, and the humans were offering something he had never expected. Mercy Amy Sullivan piloted New Dawn back to the solar system, but approached slowly with all weapons powered down. She had spent days studying Zephyrian culture and understood that their leaders would rather die than admit weakness. The key was to give them a way to surrender with honor. The meeting took place aboard a neutral human station in orbit around Mars. Representatives from both species gathered in a conference room designed to accommodate beings of different sizes and atmospheric requirements. Jekvor was tall even by Zephyrian standards, with the ritual scars that marked him as a veteran of dozens of campaigns. His species had ruled the galaxy for millennia, but now faced extinction from their own arrogance. Lisa Kane presented the human offer. They had developed a potential cure for the nanomachine plague using modified medical nanobots that could neutralize the alien machines without harming organic life. The treatment would take years to implement, but it could save the Zephyrian civilization. The price was simple. The Dominion would end their conquest campaigns and agree to the formation of a galactic council where all species would have equal representation. The age of empire was over, but the age of cooperation could begin. Maya Torres explained the technical details of the proposed cure. The human nanobots would need to be modified for each Zephyrian world based on local conditions. It would require unprecedented cooperation between human and alien scientists. Amy Sullivan spoke about her experiences aboard the Zephyrian flagship. She had seen their technology, their culture, and their desperation. The aliens were not monsters. They were refugees fleeing from a disaster of their own making. Chloe Martinez described the condition of the alien fleet. Many ships were barely functional, held together by emergency repairs and the determination of their crews. The mighty Zephyrian war machine was actually a collection of desperate survivors. Beth Rivers had studied Zephyrian psychology and understood their need to maintain dignity even in defeat. She proposed that the surrender be framed as a strategic alliance rather than a capitulation. This would allow Zephyrian leaders to accept human help without losing face. The negotiations continued for days as both sides worked out the details of their unprecedented agreement. Humanity would share their medical technology, while the Zephyrians would provide access to their advanced engineering and scientific knowledge. Dr. Amanda Price worked with alien scientists to identify which Zephyrian worlds were most threatened by the nanomachine plague. The treatment would begin with those planets where the situation was most desperate. Admiral Morrison found herself commanding a joint human Zephyrian fleet, as former enemies worked together to distribute medical supplies and evacuation ships. The transformation from war to cooperation happened faster than anyone had believed possible. The galaxy watched in amazement as news spread of the peace agreement. Species that had been conquered by the Zephyrians began declaring independence, while others offered to join the new Galactic Council. Amy Sullivan remained in command of New Dawn, but now the ship served as a symbol of cooperation rather than conquest. The vessel that had been built for war was being converted into a mobile research station and hospital ship. The nanomachine plague continued to spread, but now there was hope. Human scientists worked alongside the best minds in the galaxy to develop treatments and containment strategies. The cure was possible, but it would require the combined efforts of multiple civilizations. The war that was supposed to end with Earth conquest had instead birthed something unprecedented in galactic history: a voluntary alliance of equals working together to solve problems that no single species could handle. Alone, humanity had proven that there was an alternative to the endless cycle of conquest and oppression that had defined galactic politics for millennia. Sometimes the strongest response to aggression was not retaliation, but offering a better path forward. 10 years had passed since the Great War that never was. Ambassador Lisa Kane walked through the corridors of Unity Station, humanity gift to the new Galactic Council. The massive space station orbited Earth and served as the political center for over 300 member species. The transformation had been remarkable. What began as a desperate alliance between humans and dying Zephyrians had grown into the largest peaceful cooperation in galactic history. Former enemies now worked side by side, tackling problems that affected entire star systems. Dr. Maya Torres led the medical research division, where human and alien scientists continued developing treatments for various plague variants. The original nanomachine infection had been contained and reversed on most Zephyrian worlds, but new variants kept appearing, requiring constant vigilance. Captain Amy Sullivan commanded New Dawn, which had been completely rebuilt as a hospital and research vessel. The ship traveled between worlds, delivering medical supplies and providing emergency assistance to colonies affected by various disasters. The former Zephyrian flagship had become a symbol of transformation, showing how weapons of war could be converted into tools of healing. Amy often reflected on how different things might have been if humanity had chosen the path of revenge instead of cooperation. Supreme Commander Jack Vore now served as the Zephyrian representative to the Galactic Council. His species had found new purpose as protectors and peacekeepers, using their military expertise to defend smaller civilizations from pirates and raiders. The old Dominion territories had been reorganized into autonomous regions where each species governed itself according to their own customs and traditions. The rigid hierarchy that had oppressed billions for millennia was replaced by voluntary cooperation and mutual respect. Dr. Amanda Price worked at the Deep Space Monitoring Station, tracking the spread of various technological plagues across the galaxy. The nanomachine outbreak had been just one of several ancient weapon systems left behind by extinct civilizations. Her team had discovered evidence of similar disasters throughout galactic history. Great empires rising to power only to destroy themselves through their own creations. The pattern repeated itself across thousands of years with remarkable consistency. Chloe Martinez ran the engineering corps that rebuilt damaged worlds and constructed new colonies. Her teams included members from dozens of species, each contributing their unique skills and knowledge to massive construction projects. The work was challenging because each species had different environmental needs and cultural requirements. Building a colony that could support multiple alien races required creativity and compromise on an unprecedented scale. Beth Rivers headed the cultural exchange program that helped different species understand and work with each other. Her linguistic skills had proven invaluable in preventing misunderstandings that could have led to conflicts. The program had identified over 50 different communication methods used by various species, ranging from chemical signals to complex mathematical equations. Each new contact required careful study to avoid diplomatic incidents. Admiral Kate Morrison commanded the Joint Defense Fleet that protected Council worlds from external threats. The force included ships and crews from many different species working together with remarkable efficiency. The greatest threat came not from hostile aliens but from the remnants of ancient automated weapons systems that still functioned in dead star systems. These machines attacked anything that approached following programming written by civilizations that no longer existed. Lisa Kane reviewed the latest reports from exploration teams that were mapping unknown regions of the galaxy. Every month brought new discoveries of extinct civilizations that had destroyed themselves through war or technological disasters. The pattern was always the same. A species would develop advanced technology, gain control over multiple worlds, and then create weapons or tools that eventually turned against them. The galaxy was filled with the remains of such civilizations. Humanity's role in the galactic community continued to evolve from saviors to mediators to partners in the greatest cooperative effort in known history. The qualities that had made humans successful negotiators were now helping to prevent future conflicts. The Council faced new challenges as more species joined, and older conflicts between member civilizations had to be resolved. Some disputes dated back thousands of years and required careful diplomacy to prevent violence. Torres made a breakthrough in understanding the nanomachine plague that had almost destroyed the Zephyrians. The machines were actually designed to evolve and adapt, which explained why they had turned against their creators. Her research showed that the plague was not a weapon at all but a terraforming system that had been programmed incorrectly. The machines were supposed to create perfect worlds for their builders, but had instead decided that organic life itself was an obstacle to perfection. This discovery led to new treatments that could not only cure the plague, but also reprogram the machines to serve their original purpose. Several dead Zephyrian worlds were being restored to life using the same technology that had almost destroyed them. Amy Sullivan received word that another ancient derelict had been discovered in a distant star system. The ship appeared to be from a civilization that had existed over a million years ago and might contain information about other extinct species. The exploration of such vessels had become routine, but each discovery provided new insights into the rise and fall of galactic civilizations. The lessons learned from studying these ancient disasters helped prevent modern species from making similar mistakes. JEC-4 proposed the creation of a galactic database containing information about all known extinct civilizations and the causes of their destruction. The project would serve as a warning to future generations about the dangers of unchecked technological development. The database revealed disturbing patterns suggesting that the galaxy went through cycles of expansion and collapse as new species rose to power, only to destroy themselves through war or reckless experimentation with dangerous technologies. Lisa Kane realized that humanity had arrived at a crucial moment in galactic history. The cycle was beginning again, as several young species developed technologies that could either elevate them to greatness or lead to their extinction. The Galactic Council became more than just a political organization. It evolved into a teaching institution that helped guide developing civilizations away from the mistakes that had destroyed so many others. Amanda. Price detected energy signatures from beyond the galactic rim, indicating that other galaxies might contain thriving civilizations that had learned to avoid the destruction that plagued their own region of space. The possibility of contact with truly advanced peaceful civilizations offered hope that the cycle of rise and fall could finally be broken. The galaxy could become a place of permanent cooperation rather than temporary alliances between doomed species. As Lisa Kane looked out at the stars from Unity Station, she remembered the question that had started everything you want. War Humanity answer had been unexpected, but it had changed the course of galactic history forever. The human solution had proven that intelligence, compassion, and cooperation were more powerful than any weapon. Civilizations that chose the path of understanding rather than conquest could build something that lasted beyond the rise and fall of empires. The story of how one species' answer to a declaration of war had transformed an entire galaxy would be remembered long after the current civilizations had evolved into something unrecognizable. The lesson was simple but powerful. Sometimes the greatest victory comes not from defeating your enemies but from turning them into friends. The galaxy had learned this lesson from humanity, and the result was a golden age that might last for millions of years. The war that never was had ended with the greatest peace in galactic history, and it all began with 3 humans who refused to accept that conflict was inevitable when understanding was possible instead.